Hi, I'm Rick Tibbetts. Welcome to Unlimit Yourself. I'm glad you're here. In today's episode, we're going to discuss finding fulfillment through fitness. To do so, I've invited onto the show an expert on the topic, whose story is as uplifting as it is fascinating. Her name is Victoria Leyburn, an inspirational woman who went from the throes of despair to thriving undeterred. She is my very first guest on the podcast, and I am so happy to have her on. Victoria, or Vic as she is more commonly known, hosts an Instagram page where she explores themes of mental health, spiritual wellness, and physical fitness by sharing lessons from her own trials and tribulations. In my view, she is a perfect example of confident vulnerability in action, and her determination to live life authentically is something we could all learn from. With that said, and without further ado, let's get started. Hello, Victoria Leyburn. Welcome to Unlimit Yourself. So glad to have you here. You are my first guest, and this is nothing short of an honor and a privilege, so welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be on it.
Let's begin with some of the basics here. Where are you from? How old are you? Where'd you go to college?
So I grew up in a small town called Dryden, New York. It is between Ithaca and Cortland. I'm 23 years old, and I did go to college. So right after I graduated high school, I went to Oswego State. I didn't do so hot, so I decided to enlist. And yeah, so I'm here now.
Well, you have a very interesting story, and I'm glad you mentioned your military experience. So I want to dive into that a little bit. What was your experience like in the U.S. military as a 68W or a combat medic? Why did you choose to join, and how has that shaped who you are today?
So yeah, I'm a 68 Whiskey combat medic. I decided to join the military because I felt really lost. So like I said, I graduated high school, went to college like I felt like I was supposed to do. All my friends were doing it, and I didn't really see any other options out there at the time. But after experiencing, college life and not really agreeing with it and not really finding my place, I decided to enlist. I chose 68 Whiskey because I wanted to do something that I felt like would make a difference. So like a combat medic, I'm in charge of, the lives of the soldiers that I serve with. So that's a great privilege that I've been honored to have, and I take it very seriously. And it shaped me into, I feel like, a kinder person, just because like dealing with patients and having them, go through injuries or health issues, I can be there and support them through that.
Well, that is fantastic, and thank you for your service. Anybody who does enlist in the military, that is a very admirable thing to do. So again, thank you. But in the beginning of what you said, you'd noted that in college, you weren't exactly enjoying the college environment in that experience, and life was a little difficult then. So if you wouldn't mind, could you briefly describe who you were, who you felt you were back then, before you underwent your inevitable inspiring life change?
Oh, I was a lost kid. That's what I was. So I grew up in a very religious family, and, as I started to get older in my older teenage years, I started to doubt a lot that I had been taught by my parents. And so when I went to college, I, started partying, drinking like most college students do, and that didn't feel right either. So I knew that if I had stayed there and like made myself go to college and continued in that lifestyle, I had a good chance of ruining my life, and I didn't want that to happen. So I knew I needed to make a change.
I definitely identify with that. I can't quite say that college led me down a dark path. I did quite well, but there were many times throughout my 4 years where I felt unappreciated, unacknowledged, and frankly, lonely and at times depressed. And in those darker times, I would just keep reminding myself to have faith. Faith that things would get better, that I will prevail, that whatever hardship I was experiencing would pass. And that brings me to another point. You mentioned in your answer your experience with religion. So I know that you had questioned a good deal of that when you were growing up. But I also know that it continues to play a role in another capacity. So could you talk about how it does, and particularly the two phrases, "I'm a child of God" and "charity never faileth"? How have those phrases shaped your worldview?
So I was raised in an LDS family, also known as Mormons. And so I had a very strict upbringing that kind of turned myself off to religion, I guess, as a whole. So when I left the church, I had gone to a different church almost every single Sunday for like 3 months straight. And I always expected to feel this overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, I found the place that I'm supposed to be. Like, this is the truth. And I never ended up feeling that. So I kind of took everything that I learned as a child that I did know to be true and started implementing it into my lifestyle, I guess. So just like the spirituality that I have. So growing up, like you said, um, these two phrases were repeated in my household. I don't even know how many times. The first one being, "I am a child of God." And to me, that means that, every single human on this earth has a divine right and purpose, regardless of whatever religion you are. So, because of that, everyone deserves love, compassion, forgiveness, and that translates into how I treat people with love and respect. The second phrase, "charity never faileth," it kind of intertwines a little bit. So, my mom always said charity is the pure love of Christ. Well, to me, charity is the pure love within yourself. So, I think that showing charity, being charitable is super important because it's showing people around you how much you appreciate them and love them.
Well, see, that in itself is very inspiring. The fact that you keep those sentiments with you and so close to you on a day-to-day basis, how they guide you, and that even in some of the darker times that you've gone through, that has been a light that you've been able to use as guidance. And speaking of that light, speaking of that inspiration, on December 2nd, 2020, you kicked off a new and inspiring chapter of your own life by creating a fitness page on Instagram. But I want to make clear to everybody listening, this is a lot more than a fitness page. I mean, this is spirituality, this is mental health, this is a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of positivity coming at you every day from Victoria Leyburn. So you focus it on personal, mental well-being, holistic well-being. And I'm very interested to know, what was it that lit the fire under you to make such a dramatic change in your life and share your transformation with the world?
I had been contemplating it for a long time before I actually decided to do it. And I wanted it to be unique to myself, I didn't want it to be surface level like a lot of social media is. I wanted people to actually really get to know me, how I feel about things, and feel comfortable enough to connect with me on a personal level. So, what really lit the fire, I guess, is this dramatic change within myself. I wanted other people that were struggling to find hope and know that that dark place isn't forever, and that if they want to make a change, that it's completely possible for anybody to do that.
That is exactly what I try to get at on Unlimit Yourself, is to let people know that their potential is limitless, and that a lot of the times what is holding them back is within their own head. In fact, a lot of the times it is the sentiments and the criticisms and the judgments, the fear of being looked down upon, that keeps people in a box, that keeps people from pushing their limits, stepping out of their comfort zone, or getting the help they need. And so putting out the kind of messages that you're sharing on Instagram is not only a wonderful thing in its own right, but it's a necessary thing. these are words that more and more people need in their own lives so that they can improve who they are and have the confidence to do so. But I'm curious, why did you choose Instagram as that method instead of, say, a YouTube channel or a Facebook page? What was it about Instagram that was best for you?
Well, Instagram was the only social media outlet that I had. And YouTube was really scary to me because I get really nervous on video. I'm not really comfortable with my voice that much. So I thought I needed to take a smaller step. Now that I've been doing it for over 6 months, I've thought about doing YouTube. I just think it's going to be a little while before I can start doing that because I have some big things coming up. So.
Well, I'm sure you do, and I look forward to seeing the new, innovative ways you decide to put out content. But the content that you are producing now on Instagram, it's highly curated. I mean, you're an excellent writer and storyteller, and your Instagram captions never fail to impress. I mean, they're never lacking in sincerity, authenticity, warmth. So, do you love to write? And if so, when was that love sparked? And can we expect a book or novel anytime soon?
I do love to write, but mostly about personal experiences, my own feelings, and I do really love poetry. When I was a child, my English teachers always told me that I was really good at it, which I think, that's always nice to hear. You always want to do something that you're good at, right? And I wrote, this is kind of funny, I wrote a children's book. I sometimes read it still, and I'm like contemplating, like, do I want to do anything with it? Do I not want to do anything with it? But I don't think there'll be any books soon. Maybe within the next 10 years, though.
Okay, well, whenever you do publish that, I'd be happy to promote it. Because really, people should understand, when we think Instagram caption, we think something trivial, something paltry, right? Something that sounds cool because we have a really nice and sleek photo, but that is not what Vic is doing at all. I mean, these are comprehensive. They are well thought out. They are structured. The transitions flow beautifully into the next. So please do yourself a favor and not only take a look at her visual content, but really dive into those captions because they unveil a story every single time.
I do really appreciate it when I know someone has read the whole thing and either messages me or comments something to me. It means the world to me because I do really put my heart and soul into what I write. I mean, a lot of times my whole caption doesn't even fit, so I have to put it in the comments as well. And it's kind of given me an outlet to tell my story. That's something that I've been working with my therapist about, telling my story, and it's helped me heal, and that's what I'm most thankful for.
I'm glad you brought up the fact that you are pouring your soul into this and also mentioning your therapist there. Very recently, you'd posted what you called an authenticity post, and you did what a lot more people need to do. See, what you're doing, how you're presenting yourself, it might seem like you're always strong, you're on top of it, but the reality is that there are times when you can feel broken, when you can feel like you are spent emotionally, physically, and you need help. And in this post that I'm referring to, which was on June 24th, you talked about how you needed to go back and see a therapist and touch base with that therapist to gather yourself once more and regain that strength. By sharing that with the world, you were making clear that this is not something to be ashamed of, that going and getting help is a sign of strength more than anything. And then you concluded that post with a quote that I think everybody should keep near and dear to them, which is, only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Could you talk about that post a little bit more and what mental health and its maintenance mean to you?
Yes, so that quote is by Brene Brown. She's an amazing person, amazing woman, amazing writer. And so that post means a lot to me because I was really struggling, with my own mental health, depression, anxiety, and, there's no cure for depression. It's just how well are you going to manage it? And at the time, I wasn't doing as well at managing it. And I think the biggest thing is to recognize that. And then the second thing is to do something about it, which is harder than you think, to actually take that action and do it.
Oh, absolutely. It is tough because society, messaging from all over, tries to tell us that if we go to a therapist, if we talk to a counselor, suddenly we're weaker. Suddenly we are defective as a human being. Somehow, if we go and explain our problems and discuss our vulnerabilities and the trauma that we've gone through, suddenly we are less than, which is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. If you go to the if you break your arm, you go to the doctor. If you are going through depression, having a lot of anxiety, why is there so much stigma about going to another form of doctor, a therapist, to go and heal that part of you? So the fact that you are so vocal about the importance of mental health, it's necessary messaging. And it's wonderful that you are confident enough to share that with the world. But in addition to therapists, I know there's something else that helps you, that keeps you on the straight and narrow and builds you up, and that is fitness. That is going to the gym and busting out an amazing workout. So talk to me a little bit about how you fell in love with fitness and how that helps you maintain not only your physical health, but your mental health.
Yeah, so growing up, I always played sports. I always was an active girl. And then after graduating high school, I didn't have as much of an outlet to do that. So I kind of, fell off the beaten path, wasn't doing as well physically. And that's really when my mental health declined as well. And when I started being more active, it started with just, taking walks with my dog, taking jogs. And then I started lifting weights. And as I got more fit, my mental health really improved as well. And there really is that, mind, body, spirit connection where once one thing improves, the rest improves too. And I say spiritual as well because I try to make a effort to thank the universe for the opportunity to move my body, to, thank my legs for helping me walk up the stairs and for allowing me to walk my dog. Like, I think to have an attitude of gratitude is super important and helps in all three aspects.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I've gone through my own stuff over the years, and there have been, of course, many difficult challenges. And I always found that when I went to the gym, when I went on a run, I just always felt like life was more manageable after doing that. Like suddenly, after exerting myself physically and being exhausted and pushing my own physical limits, I just felt better as a human being. I felt more whole, felt more content. There is that connection there. And if people listening don't quite understand it, then please do yourself a favor and try to put in a good run every now and again. Go to the gym, do some lifting.
I would just encourage people to start small too, because I know at first it can seem really intimidating. Like, oh, I'm not sure what to do at the gym, or I don't really feel like I can do this. Well, you can do it, and you should start small. Like, even if it's just a walk. I know when I feel like a depressive episode coming on and I don't feel like doing anything and I just have no motivation, I take my dog for a walk, and right when I get back, I'm like, okay, that just, gave me a boost of serotonin, confidence, and now I'm ready to get through my day. So just start small, and I think that will make all the difference because it won't be as overwhelming that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely don't dive into the heavyweight straight away. Don't go on the 4-mile runs immediately. It's good. The great thing is this. The wonderful thing about fitness is that when you do starting anywhere, the only place you can go is up. So if you start by running a quarter of a mile and then you get to half a mile, you're going to get that runner's high. You're going to get that serotonin boost. And your body will thank you, unequivocally. The longer you go, the more weight you can lift, the more satisfied you'll be with yourself, the more big problems will feel like manageable tasks, and the more versatile you'll be physically. But I want our listeners to understand who we're talking to here. This is Vic Leyburn, right? So we're not talking about all small weights and small distance. We're talking about somebody who pushes herself to the limit. And I am very fascinated to know, as a frequent gym goer myself, I know what goes through my head when I'm undergoing a particularly grueling workout. And that to me is one of the most spiritual moments, is when I'm at the gym and maybe I'm on my 4-mile run and I'm at the 3-mile mark and I am gassing. I am almost out of all energy. All I want to do is stop, but I just keep going. I get into a certain zone. And it's tough to describe because you're empty-headed, but you're not. You just see the goal in front of you, and you just keep on going towards it. If you're listening to music, that music envelops you, and you become, in essence, more so than a physical being. But that's how I would describe it. How would you describe that moment when you're in a particularly grueling workout, and how do you push through to the end?
So, I always try to concentrate on the bigger picture. It's so easy to get tunnel vision and just focus on, wow, this really sucks. I'm dripping sweat. I don't want to finish this. I don't want to do this. But I just think back to the bigger picture. What are my big goals? How much can I improve and how fast can I do it? And I remind myself of my why. I actually on the lock screen of my phone, I have in my notes written, my whys. Why do I do what I do? And that constant reminder of every single time I look at my phone, I see the reasons why I do what I do, gives me enough motivation where I can finish those hard workouts and push myself to the limits that I need to push myself to.
Well, you certainly need something in those moments, and knowing the why in those moments is big. Because when your body is stressing, when you're under a lot of physical pressure, or you're gasping for oxygen in one way or another, knowing why you're doing what you're doing certainly will keep you on pace. And for me, I'm always so motivated to just get it done. When it comes to running is something that I just enjoy doing. And if I don't do it at least a few times a week, I start to feel quite off. And I just need to get to that distance. Whatever I tell myself before the run, if it's 2.5 miles, if it's 3, if it's 4, I have to get that done. And the feeling of having accomplished that, it's totally inconsequential. I'm not winning a trophy. I'm not winning a Nobel Prize or contributing to the scientific community. I'm literally just finishing a run, but for some reason it just feels so triumphant. And I know that you probably feel the same way when you finish a very difficult workout. Would I be right?
Oh, definitely. It's the feeling of not disappointing yourself, of accomplishing what you said you were going to do, to have that kind of tenacity. There's no feeling like that.
Oh, exactly. And I love that you said it that way, because that is how it gets applied to the real world, to real life. It's setting a goal, setting an objective, and busting out all the work until you get there. It's not falling off halfway through. It's not saying, I'm a little tired, I need to stop this. It's getting all the way to the end, to where you want to be. And every time you go to the gym, every time you go on a run or reach a new personal best, whatever it is, you getting to the end, it may seem like a small victory, but when you add all those up, that creates a mentality. That mentality that puts you in a place where no matter what it is, if it's a test, if it's writing a book, if it's learning a new language, whatever it is, you keep going all the way till the end, because you won't accept a half-assed effort. You do it till the end. And that's what I think, that's what fitness is for me. And I'm sure that resonates quite a bit with you.
Yes, most definitely.
So, with all your consistent output, heartfelt messaging, and your growing following, you must receive a lot of feedback from people who are uplifted by your message and deeply appreciate what you're doing. So with that said, have you ever received feedback that was especially touching? And so put another way, Have you received words of gratitude that were so moving they stand out in your mind?
Most definitely. There's been messages that have brought me to tears, just because of how grateful I am and how grateful they are to hear my message. And, I've had people who have messaged me with eating disorders, suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety, and to know that I've made a connection with them that has impacted their life means the world to me. And being able to connect with them in a way that is beneficial for the both of us is just so amazing. Um, so, yes, I have received feedback, and I won't share anything specific, but I am forever thankful for it.
Well, I'm sure. Receiving such feedback that is so personal, that goes to the core of a person, and knowing that you were the one who delivered that message, that uplifted them, that made their day. I mean, that's an incredible feeling. And I'm so glad that you're receiving that feedback, because just brightening somebody's day, letting them know that even though life is hard, that there is a way through, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Being the carrier of that message, it's a great duty, it's a great responsibility, but it reaps so much reward.
It kind of goes along with one of the posts that I've made is, anytime I receive a feedback like that, the ones that I always remember are never oh, you look so pretty. Oh, you did this, you did that. It's always the ones that are, personal connections that I remember, months, years later. So it's just like so nice that people are seeing me beyond the surface of who I am, and I'm also seeing them that way.
And that is an incredibly healthy dynamic. Now, we just spoke about those who have reached out to you, but let's just say there's somebody out there who hasn't yet, who doesn't know who you are, but they want to follow in your footsteps and make a positive life change like you did, but they're scared, or maybe they don't know where to start. What would you say to somebody like that?
I would tell them to connect with someone in their inner circle who they can trust and rely on for support, and make tiny goals to reach wherever they're trying to get to. So it's not all going to happen overnight, and you're definitely going to need a support system. But if you make small goals towards whatever it is that you want to achieve, it's completely doable.
I second that. Now, at this point, we've discussed your story, we've discussed where you've been, where you're going, but is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you'd like people to know about you or the lessons you've learned throughout your journey?
I just think it's important for everyone to, find their niche of something that they love and stop trying to fit into things that aren't meant for you. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't need to, be basic. Be yourself, be authentic, express yourself in however you want to express yourself. There's no right or wrong. There's just you.
I think that is the best and most eloquent way to end this episode. Thank you so very much for your time. I am once again honored to have you on. I think that a lot of people are going to love hearing what you have to say and be inspired and hopefully gain the initiative to make similar changes in their own life and make positive transformation for themselves. To wrap up, thanks again for being on the podcast, and we can't wait to have you back on soon.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to come back.
That does it for this episode on finding fulfillment through fitness. Today, we discussed Vic's fascinating life story along with many of the lessons she gleaned from it. What she does on her Instagram is a perfect parallel to what I'm trying to do with this podcast: inspire people to overcome social, mental, and emotional barriers to maximize their potential and live life authentically. Go follow and support Vic's mission by going to @holisticfitness_with_Vic on Instagram. Don't forget to include a third S at the end of fitness. Also, be sure to follow this podcast's Instagram page @UnlimitYourselfPod. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.